Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, leadership of the House, and honorable members. First, I'd like to dedicate this moment to the good people of Nigeria, the people of Kogi State who led the land, and in particular, the people of Ibira. What I also would like to put a dedication to is the people of Russia and the Soviet Union. I'm just standing here and wondering why, with all the clamor and appreciation for the magnificent structure that stands there, not one person actually appreciated the brains behind, who dreamt this big dream for Nigeria. I stand here today as a direct product of the relationship between the two countries. Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to meet you. I've heard so much about you, and I and other Nigerians, they are greatly inspired by you. And thank you so much in this honorable House for taking time to visit the moribund steel plant. And I'm greatly honored that you were inspired and moved by the vision which has laid idle. And if you permit me, I will make this as brief as possible, but if I skip a little bit beyond the 15-20 minutes I'm granted, please, we've waited 40 years, and I believe truth is very essential to moving forward. So I have in my hands here the Nigerian Constitution, and I read chapter 2, section 16, which says, "The state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, A, harness the resources of the nation and promote national prosperity and an efficient and dynamic and self-reliant economy." I also go to C, which states, "Without prejudice to its rights to operate and participate in areas of the economy other than the major sectors of the economy, manage and operate the major sectors of the economy." That means Nigeria, the government, is saddled with the responsibility to manage major sectors such as the steel industry. I'll go to C, 2C, which states that the economic system is not operated in such a manner. That means the government is going to ensure that the economic system is not operated in such a manner as to permit the concentration of wealth or the means of production and exchange in the hands of few individuals or a group of people. 3, a body shall be set up by the Act of the National Assembly, which shall have power to review from time to time the ownership and control of business enterprises operating in Nigeria and make recommendations to the President on the same. That means what is going on here, the debate that we hold so preciously, is actually in line and in tune with the functions of this honorable House. So the people of Nigeria are greatly appreciative of this. And we hope that at the end of today, no matter how brutal the truth that we may be faced with, we do not just let this day pass by like another day and another session that has held in the past. We, myself and the marginalized Nigerians, are actually holding you all in trust. And today also, the over 3,000 Nigerians that were trained in Russia, many of them died. Many people like myself, mixed race, blood, who were left motherless and fatherless. I honor and I dedicate this day to them. So, the previous speakers have taken time to speak magnanimously about the functions of Ajaokuta Steel is more than a steel plant. But what I would say today, especially with reference to the very last speaker, Barrister, any private sector, any private player, whoever feels he has the capacity, the financial capability and technicalities to operate a steel plant is very free to do so. Sir, you said you would need $100 million or $300 million. We have enough land in Nigeria and we can give you one to start your steel plant. But Ajaokuta, as it stands today, is not of commercial concern. It's a political and economic play. As we all know, just 2 days ago, President Trump of America, said that he's going to do everything possible to revive the steel sector in America because of what it stands, because of what the people of America stand to gain with regards to job creation, even if it means increasing the tariffs for import steel. That is what Nigeria needs. It has nothing to do with sentiments of financial money. And I'd like to say one more thing. Political will is one of the reasons why Ajaokuta is laying moribund. And all the money in the world and all the technical expertise, even if every Nigerian today here becomes a steel expert, a metallurgist at that, if you do not have the political will and the decision from your heart, a patriotic movement, and leaders in place that will have this idea and share same vision, Ajaokuta will not move. So, permit me, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to put before the nation a few of such conspiracies with respect to the few individuals we would mention. I would not in any way or manner speak of anything that I do not have proof for. I'm very much aware of the risk that this befalls me. In 1994, when the Russians left, it was definitely the Soviet Union, I would call the company in particular Ajaokuta Export. When they left in 1994, Ajaokuta was 98.2% completed. I have that in the letter they wrote 2 years ago to the President. Mr. Speaker, I would gladly share the letter with you at your call. And when they left, it was likely because Nigeria fell short on its contractual agreement. They were not putting forth funds. And the supporting infrastructure that would be needed to bring to place all the other resources were not in place. But that aside, Nigeria should know that we have several times had good opportunities to have the steel sector running. The very first was in 2001 under President Olusegun Obasanjo. 2 years ago when I visited Russia, I visited the People's University in Moscow. And right there in the hall, there's a big picture of President Olusegun Obasanjo. And I asked, why is his picture here amongst other leaders of the world? And they said, he visited this university in 2001 when he visited Putin. And then I got curious. Why did he visit President Putin? And then I got to know that on March 7th, 2001, there was actually a bilateral agreement entered into between Nigeria and Russia in furtherance to the transfer of high technology. And Ajaokuta Steel was actually one of the issues. Based on that bilateral agreement and others, 40 steel experts were sent by the same company, the original builders, Senator Experts. And they worked here alongside with Nigerian experts to develop the technical and financial reports, which were supposed to be used to formalize the revival and modernization of Ajaokuta Steel plant. But after that, surprisingly, the Nigerian side went quiet. In 2003, President Putin wrote a letter to President Obasanjo. Mr. Speaker, it's a short letter. Do you mind if I read that? It reads, Dear Mr. President, as we mentioned to you during our meetings in Moscow in March 2001, trade and economic cooperation between the Russian Federation and the Federal Republic of Nigeria has significant potential, good prospects for further development and deepening of relations. One of the important directions of cooperation between our countries in this sphere in the completion of construction and commissioning of metallurgical plant in Ajaokuta town. The realization of this plant will contribute to the solution of a number of economic and social challenges faced by Nigeria in a strategic nature, setting an example of partnership in the field of industry and high technologies to lay the foundation for new joint plants in the energy sector, telecommunications, and petroleum refinery. He went further to say, the Russian side has completed the preparation of technical proposals for the company in Ajaokuta, and worked through issues of financial provision. We hope the state enterprise, Diageo Export, and its partner in Nigeria, which is the ministry, will soon be able to successfully conclude negotiations on this large-scale project and to begin its realization. Using this opportunity, Mr. President, I would like to confirm our mindset to a comprehensive strengthening of Nigerian-Russian relations. Yours faithfully, Vladimir Putin. I would like to say that at this point, the technical reports were already submitted to the Nigerian side. That's the ministry. And Russia had gone ahead to secure the monies that will be used to complete the plan from BNP Paribas. 2 months after, President Olusegun Obasanjo responded. In his response, the only place where he mentioned Ajaokuta, I'll read those. First of all, allow me to thank you for your kind message. Ajaokuta really occupies an important place in our agenda, and I appreciate the fact that you also find this project a priority in our bilateral relations. I will not bore you with the rest of the content, but it has to do with supply of military equipment and stuff. That was the response our president gave in response to the letter from Putin. And the very next month after this letter, Ajaokuta Steel and Niomco, which is the iron ore company in Itape, were given to a company called Solgas. Solgas Energy at that time was not qualified and had, well, permit me, I'm not supposed to give my own opinions. Solgas Energy was given the concession of Ajaokuta and Itape. And if this honorable House recalls, probably from your archives, there was a session called a few months after, because the House was worried that no activities was taking place in Itape and Ajaokuta. And the conclusion there to Solgas was they should go to Russia and partner with the original builders as technical experts. But they went to India and brought in Iceblood, what is known today as Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. So in truth, the Indian company that we so know today was brought in as technical partners to Solgas. So from then on, I will not bore you again, but the facts are all there. Nigeria entered due to, probably should I say the mistake that President Olusegun Obasanjo got when conducted, where for some reason he found Solgas more qualified than the people who actually built that place. That is one part. The second part of it, I will say here, because if the minister were to be here, he would have talked about the arbitration in England, in the courts. So I would briefly brush through that. On the 2nd of April 2008, at the Federal Executive Council met and late Yar'Adua terminated the concession. I quote late Yar'Adua: "After considering the report of the administrative panel of inquiry established by the Yar'Adua administration to review the concession agreements and determine the extent of compliance by both parties, the council agreed with its findings that the agreements were largely skewed in favor of the concessionaire to the detriment of the federal government of Nigeria." I have the report here. This is the Inuwa Magaji report, duly certified by the Ministry of Solid Minerals. It contains documents, facts, and figures, and even pictorial evidences of the vandalization that took place. I am surprised why Nigeria did not present this before the courts in England and rather said we have no proof. How can we have no proof? Why did the Solid Mineral, the minister, Honorable Kayode Fayemi, reconcession Itape back to the same people that vandalized it? Because there was no proof. This is the proof.
Order.
In my hands, I also have the rules of... In my hands, I also have the rules of the International Chamber of Commerce. The arbitration court had its first session, and this is the rules. From this report, when I read back, I read from page to page. It is signed here duly by the ex-Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Bello Adoke. I could tell here that Nigeria was clearly winning the case. If you read these rules, Mr. Speaker, I will submit this to committee. You will tell them there was no reason for Nigeria to settle for go for out-of-court settlement. If we had proceeded this diligently, we would have had Ajaokuta and Itape back in our hands. Well, it says in our hands technically, but for some clauses. Because towards the end, you could clearly state, it states here in 9.2.3, claimants, who is the global infrastructure, because they took us to court, claimants have not demonstrated enough, claimants have not proved enough sufficient evidence that they will suffer irreparable harm. All the points here were claimants have not demonstrated, claimants have not demonstrated. So you may read this. Nigeria was clearly winning. But to our surprise, the Attorney General applied for an out-of-court settlement and President Jonathan granted. The out-of-court settlement brought about the Concession agreement. And the terms of the Concession agreement stated that Itape should be given back to Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited because Nigeria owes Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited $525 million. If you recall, the Minister, Honorable Kayode Fayemi, said several times that it was the court in London that actually told us to pay that amount, and Nigeria does not have $525 million. Therefore, the only option we have is to give Itape back to them to complete their 8 years. They complete the 10 years since they had done 3 years. Permit me, I would like to read from the letter, the memo the Attorney General Adoke wrote to President Jonathan on the 12th of December. It's duly signed by his signature, at each page attested. Item 6A. In light of the fact that a presidential committee had estimated damages, please, I'm going to go through this again because it's very important. Item 6A reads, in light of the fact that a presidential committee had estimated damages payable to Global in the region of $525 million, the agreement of Global to waive its right to damage a substantial achievement. This shows you that there was a presidential committee that was cooked up, put together, people of like mind promoting a particular interest. And it was that committee that actually indicted Nigeria to the amount of $525 million. It is not the courts in England, sir. It was a committee. And I do have a list of the members of the committee, which I will share with you later. I would just say that it was headed by the Vice President, Sambo. That's it. But people from the Attorney General's office, people from representative from BPE, they were all present, sir. So going by this proof, it shows that our country is not bounded by such a decision of a committee. And I would like this honorable court to demand sorry, forgive me. Okay. I would appreciate this honorable House to demand for the report of that committee. It would be interesting to know the parameters in which they arrived at such a decision, knowing full well that there was also the Inwa Magaji report, which clearly itemized the damage, and even the monies borrowed from CBN without being paid, and proved that there was no money that was brought into Nigeria. So we begin to imagine $525 million. So going by this, it will not be wrong to say that the agreement which was entered in the office of the Vice President, Osibanjo, on the 1st of August 2016 is null and void, because in law, you cannot give what you don't have, and you cannot take what is not yours. So by this, Nigeria does not owe global infrastructure $525 million, and so they have no right to spend a day in Niamco.